Republican drive for power in Wisconsin produced a fierce backlash among the voters and led them to organize in other ways. So Wisconsin has a Democratic governor right now, and more significantly, there is now a progressive majority on the state Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And that progressive majority on the state Supreme Court struck down the gerrymandered maps that were key to Republicans retaining power in Wisconsin. And the Democratic governor and Republican legislature in Wisconsin actually reached an agreement on fairer maps, where the Republican legislature passed the governor's proposal for maps in Wisconsin, so that in 2024, for the first time in a decade and a half, there will be competitive elections at the state level in Wisconsin, and the legislature is up for grabs. So one of the story I try to tell in my book over the long haul is that there's been this push and pull between anti-democratic and democratic forces. And at times the anti-democratic forces have succeeded, and at times the pro-democratic forces have succeeded. And Wisconsin shows that push and pull. And after a decade of the anti-democratic forces succeeding in Wisconsin, the pro-democracy forces have seen a lot of success recently by organizing at the state level. I think that's a theme not just in Wisconsin, but in other key battleground states like Michigan and Pennsylvania as well.
You devote a whole chapter of your book to Pat Buchanan, who was very conservative. He was an aide to Richard Nixon, and he ran several times for president, twice as a Republican primary candidate. That was in 92 and 96. And in 2000, the year of the contested election between Bush and Gore, he ran in the election as an independent on the Reform Party ticket. So, where does Pat Buchanan fit into your theme of the majority?
Pat Buchanan is an extremely influential figure in the drive for minority rule. He is the first major presidential candidate to mix antipathy towards the civil rights movement of the 1960s with opposition to broad immigration in the 80s and 90s, and basically makes opposition to demographic change the centerpiece of his presidential campaigns in the 1990s. And what Buchanan is arguing is that what he calls the emerging white minority needs to be protected. And that's why he's basically the godfather of the modern day push for minority rule on the right, because the 1990 census is the first to predict that whites will one day be a minority in the country. And Buchanan is the first major presidential candidate to make a big deal about this and say the more diverse the country becomes, the more democratic, big D democratic it will become. And therefore we need to lead a counter-revolution against the changing demographics of the country before it's too late. And Donald Trump largely adopts that as his platform in 2016, 2020, and now in 2024.
And in terms of Buchanan being a blueprint for Trump, Buchanan's campaign slogan was "Make America First Again," which he borrowed from Reagan's campaign slogan, "Let's Make America Great Again." So you put those two together and you have "Make America Great Again." So I wonder if Trump realizes how much he borrowed from Buchanan, or some of this is filtered through Stephen Miller or somebody else. What do you think? Do you know?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think some of it is filtered, but Trump has endorsed Buchanan's ideas. In January 2019, Buchanan writes a column endorsing Trump's plan to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, which was an idea that Buchanan first had proposed in 1992. And Trump tweets that column by Buchanan to his 58 million Twitter followers.